Hello, this is a video about Performer and I will introduce you to some of the main features. Performer is a patch made on Macs that allows to use the Ableton push controller to control the Elektron's black boxes. We can store and recall snapshots that may include tracks mute states, tracks levels, performances macros, scenes, the active pattern for each machine, and up to 16 custom MIDI continuous controllers. Tracks mute states, tracks levels, and performances macros can be controlled directly from the push controller. The left half of the patch grid controls the mute states. Dark orange for Octatrack's audio, light orange for Octatrack's MIDI, pink for the analog 4 keys, and green for the rhythm. Obviously, changes you made on the machines are reflected on Performer. And let's keep the Octatrack on to have some sounds on the background. To control tracks levels and performances macros, first we have to choose the right display page. There are 4 display pages to choose from. We use volume and panels and buttons to access them. Note that each button has 2 modes, the default mode and the altered mode. A blinking LED stands for altered. To control levels, use volume default mode. Use in and out buttons to change rows. Then, use encoders to change values. As with mutes, changes on the machines are reflected on Performer. To control performance macros, use panels in default mode. Use in and out buttons to change rows. Use encoders to change values. You can also change rows by quick tapping and holding any 3 adjacent encoders. The direction you tap, the direction you go. Up to the right, down to the left. Performer has 64 banks with 16 snapshots each. That is 1024 snapshots. Snapshots can be stored and recalled using this blue pet area. To store a snapshot, hold the store button and press a pad. To recall a snapshot, just press a pad. To change the active bank, use Tempos encoder to select a different bank, then recall or store snapshot. Let's come back to bank 1. But wait, before storing anything, it's very important to understand that in order for a parameter to be stored then recalled, it must be active. If I change mute states, then I recall the snapshot I just created. Nothing happens. This is because none of those parameters was active at the time I did store these snapshots. Now we're gonna see how to make parameters active for recalling. On the push controller there are 3 pages to control a parameter's active status. One for mute states, another for tracks levels, and another for performances macros. Let's stay on the mutes one. On the mutes active page, green stands for inactive. Now let's activate mute state for Rytm's track 1, that's my kick, and for analogs for tracks 1, where I have my bass. On the graphic user interface, the active state for any parameter is represented by a small box with an A that turns red when active. So, the kick and the bass mutes now are active. Let's mute them and let's store that here. Now changes are recalled. Now let's unmute them and store that here. Now I can control the kick and the bass mute states with these 2 snapshots. Note that inactive parameters are ignored. Because you're not obligated to recall the whole set of parameters, this approach is extremely useful. It allows to define partial structures, giving a lot of freedom and room for improvisation. Parameters can also be activated by using the Store button. Just hold the Store button and change any parameter. By doing this, the parameter will be active for the actual snapshot and its current value will be stored. Parameters can also be stored by driving them directly on the machines. Okay, on this snapshot I will store 0 for this and this macro, and for this snapshot I will release the Store button before the pads, storing a higher value. To deactivate parameters, just go to the relevant page and deactivate them. Note that the active status is on a per snapshot basis. I love Elektron's reload feature, but sometimes I would like to reload just some parameters. Let's create a snapshot that when recalled, it will kinda reload Rytm's performance macros 1 and 2 and Analog 4's performance macros A and F. Okay, first let's store a snapshot here. Now let's check that all parameters are inactive. We don't want to change anything but the selected parameters. Then let's hold store and set Rytm's performance macros 1 and 2 to 0 and the Analog 4 performance macros A and F to 0. Now I can play with my macros, and when I want them to return to 0, I just use the snapshot I just created. Sometimes you may need to perform many actions at once. We can use snapshots for that, but what if we are improvising on a live performance and we have just one free hand? By pressing this button, let's call it the hold button, we activate hold mode. While in hold mode, all changes we made to mutes are put in hold. Then we can commit those changes by pressing the play button. At any time we can cancel pending actions one by one, or cancel all pending actions by pressing the rec button. Note that you can press and hold the hold button to temporarily change its state. Quantise Mode works pretty similar to hold mode, with the exception that changes that has been put on hold are committed automatically at the specified musical time. We can enter on Quantise Mode by pressing this button. This is the visual metro, and there, when it restarts, there is the Quantise trigger. While in Quantise Mode, all actions performed to mutes are put in hold till the next Quantise trigger. At any time we can cancel pending actions one by one, or cancel all pending actions by pressing the rec button. Also, you can press and hold the Quantise button to temporarily change its state. Quantise modes can be used combined. Actions will wait first for a commit, then for a quantized trigger. You may need to quick override whole or quantized mode single-handed. For those situations, you can use Tab mode. Just activate Tab mode by pressing Tab Tempo button. Blinking stands for active. Now, tapping will act normal, while a gentle press will override whole and quantized modes. The Octatrack Crossfader can be used to modulate any of the managed parameters. For tracks, mute states, tracks levels, and performances macros, modulation can be set directly from the push controller. Use Volume Alter mode to set a modulation amount for a track's level. Use In and Out buttons to change rows. Use encoders to change the modulation amount. Let's modulate kicks level. Now, when I raise the crossfader, the kicks level will go down. Use Pan and Send Alter mode to set a modulation amount for a performances macro. Use In and Out buttons to change rows. Use encoders to change the modulation amount. This one will work on the bass filter. Now the crossfader will modulate the kick and the bass. Tracks mute states can also be controlled using Crossfader Actions. For Crossfader Actions, the Octatrack Crossfader is treated as a 3-position switch. Those positions are A, B, and AB, or in other words, all in between. For mute states, Crossfader Actions can be set directly on the push controller. First, let's clear kicks level modulation. Now we can go to the Crossfader Action page. This means Rytm Track 1 is selected. Now we're gonna use this 3x3 grid to set the actions for Rytm Track 1. Columns represents crossfader positions A, AB, and B, and rows represents actions ignore and mute, mute. So let's choose mute for position AB. Now when the crossfader enters on position AB, the kick gets muted. Let's set unmute on position A. Now let's add unmute actions to several tracks and use the crossfader to recover from a breakdown. So this was an intro to some of the main Performer features. A deep insight on advanced features and practical examples will come on next video, so stay tuned. And for those who has any of the Elektron black boxes, push controller and wanna give a try on Performer, just contact me on Facebook or the Elektron forum. Links on videos info. Thanks for watching.